for the DNR. I've been working for the DNR for a little bit over 20 years. I do trout habitat work in the northeast region, which is a pretty big region of Wisconsin. We go all the way up to Florence and Forest counties. And what we're gonna go over before we start getting into trout streams, I'm just gonna point out some really cool things about our state that kind of define our state, make our state what it is, and makes our state really pretty cool. And that is we had a solid block of ice 1.5 miles high right over ourselves where we're located right now, and that is pretty incredible. We are located right around in this area here, right within the Green Bay lobe. The reason that glacier and glaciation is incredible for Wisconsin, you can see the Laurentide ice sheet right through here, is this line is still exists to this day. Everything on this side drains into Lake Michigan, and everything on this side drains into the Mississippi River via the Wisconsin River. So it's pretty incredible to think that all of the streams underneath our feet here in northeast Wisconsin eventually end up in Lake Michigan. And the reason that's important is because it's making us eligible for federal funding for Lake Michigan for GLRI, which is Great Lakes Restoration Initiative money, and this just occurred within the past 2 years. They're finally recognizing our area as being the headwaters to Lake Michigan, and that is incredibly cool. If we want to improve the water quality of Lake Michigan, we do it through improving the headwaters to Lake Michigan. And I love this map here. This is 3D Wisconsin. If any of you guys get a chance, you guys can. This is a resource that I would recommend, just because it's so unique. You can't really see it here, but it gives you a really good geographic breakdown right over here on the margins. But it's really cool to see our state three-dimensionally. Literally everything over here. This is all the headwaters to the Great Lakes. And again, these are all of our trout streams. We have just over 10,000 trout streams in the state of Wisconsin, actually just over 11,000. Every year we try to make gains on our trout and our trout waters. And the reason that's important is because, again, another reason it's important is this has a direct link to our water quality. You guys see all over here, this used to be covered with blue, just like this. This whole area used to be covered with blue. This area actually not so much, because we had an early glacier that scoured down through here in Lake Wisconsin. This is really low, a really low spot in our state. Actually, you could probably go back to the.
Now, are there different species?
Yep. Really, our native trout are brook trout, and we're gonna get into that. But we have brook trout, brown trout, and rainbow trout in Wisconsin, and it's pretty cool. But there used to be trout streams all over here, and the reason that there's not anymore is because of human-induced issues on the landscape, agricultural runoff, farming. All sorts of no buffers, they ditched a lot of our wetlands in our area here. If you look around, just around here, if there was a little stream anywhere, and a stream will go like this, it'll take up a ton of room. Back in the day, back in the 30s and 40s, they would have dug a ditch and put the stream right in a straight line ditch across the 40-acre field so they could plow both sides of it. That goes on everywhere in this we jokingly call it the occupied zone, but that goes on everywhere.
I heard our wetlands have been reduced by 50% or more.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in fact, it's probably closer to 60%.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. You guys, in our wetlands are literally our filtration system for our land and for everything that occurs throughout our waterways. They're pretty incredible, and science still science, there's a lot of beauty in science, and one of them is that there's been 4 generations of people studying wetlands, and they only understand less than a third of what they do and how they function, and that's incredible. That's why I try to get more kids jacked up and excited about this stuff, because there's still some mysteries. There's still a lot of mysteries outdoors and within science. Again, you can't really see them down here because we're washed out. We're washed out a little bit, but 84% of North America's freshwater supply, 84% is contained within the Great Lakes. 84%, and that is incredible. And the reason that is incredible, you guys, and also when I do presentations like this, I kind of refer to all of us as the kings and queens of the Great Lakes. It's because we are so water rich. We are literally billionaires in water, and we don't even know it. And it's going to be made evidently clear to us in the next 5 years that we are the caretakers of both Superior and Lake Michigan, depending on which watershed you are living in. But it's going to be the reason I love this map. This is actually taken from, and again, like I mentioned, finally they're recognizing all of these counties of which we are in, again, because they all drain into Lake Michigan. They are finally recognized as eligible for funding, federal funding to improve water quality, and that is incredibly huge, you guys. I've been doing this again for almost 20 years, and a lot of people think that we work on taxpayer-funded projects, and we do not at all. We work on trout stamp, which is, and a lot of people don't know that neither. If you're a hunter or a fisher, you are contributing 15% every time you go into Fleet Farm or Holiday gas station in Ripon, anywhere, you are self-taxed. 15%, a federal 15% excise tax. It's called Dingle Roberts or Pittman Johnson. These are 15% taxes that come off to pay for stuff like this, to pay for our improvements of water quality, and we've never been eligible until 2 years ago. So it's pretty exciting. We do not have enough funding. The projects I'm going to show you guys on here, we're all paid for. If you guys bought a trout stamp, if you paid $10 for a trout stamp, thank you kindly, because that is our funding source.
It's going up.
On your map, you have the counties that are kind of highlighted, and then colored in a little bit, like Green Lake and Marquette are colored in. Adams is not colored in. Is that included in this, or what's in?
So that's a great question, and that is they include these which is actually really cool too. They include these counties in here, even if they're just a tiny sliver of the headwaters. You guys are familiar with Powell Springs and some of the springs that are around Green Lake County where we have upwelling water just discharging out of the ground? That whole process goes on all along that Johnstown Ridge, and I'm going to show you that in a second. There's springs everywhere. If there were not springs, and again, these are the headwaters of Lake Michigan. Every time you see a spring, how many of you guys, Holleen Hollister wrote a kid's book called Paddle to the Sea. You guys ever remember reading that, about putting a little canoe in up in Red Lake, Minnesota, and then following its journey all the way down to the Mississippi River? It's you could kind of do that around here where we're at. It would just end up in Lake Michigan, which is really cool. But I hope I answered your question. But again, back to this total 84%. That, you guys, that is incredible. 21% of the world's surface water, 21%. And why that is incredibly important is you're going to see they're already talking about pipelines, Waukesha. They're gonna
diversion.
Yeah.
Eminent domain. It's going to be incredible to see all the things that people are going to claim for why we need to take water from Lake Michigan. But it's just a matter of time. Oh yeah, 13,000. And again, you guys, doing what I do, working for a trout stamp, working for trout stamp anglers, we make fishing better. That is what we, by manual code or law, we are charged with doing, which is making fishing better. People, anglers buy trout stamps. I'm a trout angler and I've been buying trout stamps for 31 years. And we just don't have enough money. What we try to do is we improve our water for trout anglers, as well as for making better water quality resiliency, better land resiliency, while we're making fishing better. That is always our goal. That is what we do. Really, again, we have. If you guys notice that there is not, in the grand scheme too of landscape and land use, our state is pretty young. Our state is pretty young, with the exception of this whole area right here. And how many of you guys have been to the driftless area? Good. I'm always surprised at how many people have never been to Lake Michigan, never been to Lake Superior, or haven't been to the driftless area. Driftless is around 1.5 million years old, and if we wouldn't have had a glacier that did all of this, all of Wisconsin would look like the driftless, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful part of the state. It's really cool. But again, a lot of people are not aware of this, and which is just quite simply, we hire interns every year. They do shocking on our trout streams, on designated trout streams. This goes on every summer. A lot of citizens are not even aware that this goes on. Occasionally you'll see like some government looking people with some kids that don't look like they're not even shaven yet. They're like shocking through a river or something and trying to figure out what they're doing, or they got a bunch of weird stuff. They're probably electrofishing, we call it. And they use electrical generator to generate a weak current. You guys, there's electricity in everything. We have it in our heart. We still don't understand ATP, fully. We have all this cool energy. Well, a low volt of electricity, they realized this in the 30s. Actually, it's called taxis. It stuns the fish. It makes their muscles swim towards the electrical probe, towards the anode. And then we're able to scoop them up, and we can measure them and learn a lot about them. We can actually take a scale from a fish, just like you would take a boar from a tree, and we can age fish, and we can see how quickly they're growing. We can tell their physiology by just a scale. But the reason this is important, you guys, ultimately, because fish biologists do this too, this is our water quality. This is literally as simple as this is. This is for brook trout, which are our native trout, our brook trout, and they're beautiful. I'm going to show you guys photos. But if you notice, our numbers are really high, far away from civilization. You can look up here, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all high, and again, this is just brook trout. Because it's brook brown and rainbows, and there's some rainbows in some of our systems. This is one slice of data out of a bunch of them, just taken from electrofishing on our local streams, and it's pretty incredible. The reason these numbers are like this, again, actually, believe it or not, is mostly rock salt. It's mostly salinity added to our trout streams. It's pretty incredible. But again, there's a direct correlation between our water quality and brook trout. If our brook trout are gone, we have super piss poor. Pardon my language. There's no young kids, right? We would have super piss poor water quality if our brook trout are gone. That's as simple as it is. You see these numbers right here. Always sad when we're not getting any more. Does that mean that it's no longer a trout stream? No, because we have brown trout, which are not native to Wisconsin, and they'll fill the niche as brook trout leave. As their numbers leave, and our projections on brook trout are like literally they're gone in 2045, 2055. That's insane, you guys, and that's why I do presentations like this. I live in my own little idyllic world working for anglers that buy these trout stamps, and every year that goes by where we are not talking about this, is a year missed, especially when we have the ability to change this through grants, through federal grants. We can improve our water quality. And we don't really drink the water out of these trout streams anyway. Yeah, we absolutely do. All of our communities do. It's called the hyperrearic zone. It's between surface water and the water that's under our feet right now. The interplay between this zone, what they're finding is that lakes and rivers and everything are actually filtering water under our feet. They're interchanging water constantly. So absolutely, we do end up drinking it. If you live in the country and you have a well, absolutely, this is your primary water source. How many of you guys know that there's still a lot of people in Wisconsin that can't drink out of their tap water?
Kiwani.
Yeah.
And worse.
Pretty bad.
How many people do you think that is? How many people do you guys think that is? I just looked
Tens
at
of thousands.
it's 1,700. Still cannot even, they can't do anything with their tap in their own damn house. That is not acceptable, you guys. Not acceptable. Imagine if you guys could not do that. If your kids, I mean, they're even telling you to not even bathe in your own water in your house. And you guys, Kewaunee County is a wake-up call to all of us, because it's just going to radiate off from there as their water quality degrades. It's just going to get, and just going to get worse, but
Well, a lot of that's from poor farming practices too.
almost all of it.
Yeah.
From farming practices, yeah.
Yeah. And then also out there in the Door Peninsula, they have the Niagara Escarpment, which from
Right.
Niagara Falls across the lake. And then all of that runoff hits this bedrock, hits the escarpment, and then pitches right into our, and there's no wetlands above this escarpment, there's nothing that's gonna filter the water. So it literally, as it runs down, it hits a rock and it runs right into like our larger watersheds unfiltered. So it's, yeah, but it doesn't mean that, because this goes on all the time, you guys. You know, I'm not trying to make you guys sad or anything, because there's a lot of beautiful things that go on on our trout streams. They are actually, everything that we have out here is way more resilient than us, way more resilient than us, and our lifetimes and our, I mean, it's incredible in its resiliency. But to me, what you see when, and that's why we love data, and we love doing this type of work, because it is very rewarding to be able to make changes on the landscape for something that cannot help itself. It literally, all of these numbers and everything that it's telling us is to do something about it. That it is all of it, that's what it is doing. It is telling us to give a crap about our land, or we're not gonna have it. If we can no longer caretake our land, the land will take it from it. That's our plan, and it will do what it has to do, you guys. Fortunately or unfortunately, right? That's a phrase nowadays. But dang it, I've got extra batteries, but the thing's going out. We are going back to those guys shot electrofishing all of our trout streams. A lot of people are not aware that we use data. That we actually, it drives what we do. If we didn't have data, we couldn't do what we do. We wouldn't do what we do, because it wouldn't be justified, right? But this is a classic. I just included this. You know, if you averaged out these numbers right here, you'd be sitting somewhere above 6. And actually, this is 2012. This has just continued to peak like this. This is a habitat project that we did, and they've been studied to death. They did all sorts of studies in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, to the point where nobody even likes studying it anymore, which is kind of sad. But and what you're looking at this is if people care, come together and do projects, try to tie our streams back into their land, you see an instant improvement. These are just fish numbers, and if you average this out, we're sitting right around in here. So we a simple project created 300 more fish throughout a property, and this is this is yearly data, which is really, we just kind of, we love all data, but it's not 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We have, on some of our trout streams, we have 40 years of data like this. And we know exactly what our trout population is doing. And if we have a problem with it, we do not stock 99% of our trout stream, our trout streams in the northeast of Wisconsin. 99% of them are not stocked, and the reason they're not is because our hatcheries occur, and I'm going to get to that in another photo. But if our habitat is healthy, if you guys are interested in reading about this, these are technical bulletins. Again, I'd love to tell you that people want to study more of this and update it, because there's a lot of cool things that they could do, but it's already, the guide, the gist of these is if you build it, they will come. And if you build it correctly by kind of listening to the land, listening to runoff, listening to farmers, believe it or not, all of us have a stake in this. We have to be willing to listen to everybody. And if you kind of do a collaborative, holistic project to improve the interface between land and water, you always get a great response, always. That is a beautiful thing about working with nature and doing what we do. It, like literally, everybody, oh, all the exotics, all this, all that. Yeah, it's all trying to tell you to do something about it. Otherwise, that's what it's there for. We are very visual generated, and it's throwing purple loosestripe, it's throwing all this stuff at us to pay attention to it, to do something about it. And if it's up to us on whether or not we choose to see that.
What is your name?
My name's Shawn Sullivan.
Shawn. Oh, good Irish name. My cousin is a stream biology teacher. How much of this information data do you get from tech schools and places of education?
Yeah, a lot.
Do you take any of that data from them?
Yes, correct. We work with our UW system and even the tech school. I'm on the advisory committee for Fox Valley Tech, and I work with a fisheries program over at UWSP.
You might know my cousin then. Anyway.
Who's your cousin?
Scott Hendricks. Yeah.
No, really? That's your cousin?
My cousin.
That's hilarious. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
What about Trouts Unlimited and Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife?
Yeah.
Do you
I work with
coordinate with these people as well?
Yeah. In fact, I work a lot with Trout Unlimited. I'm also actually the and I brought some flyers along because we do a lot of work with Trout Unlimited, and I'm the Central Wisconsin TU vice president for Trout Unlimited.
Oh.
So I get to wear two hats. I get to wear my DNR and my Central tab. But if any of you guys have, they only had a few. I actually wiped them all off. We've had a lot of events, but if any of you guys want any of those, we do. We work physically. We work with Trout Unlimited. The third Saturday of every month, May through September, we work with a pile of TU volunteers to do this project. But this, you guys, this is our native brook trout. Our native trout, it's actually char, but for all intents and purposes, it is a trout. But they are beautiful. This, not having this totally dark is hard to tell how pretty these are, but they are literally liquid paintings. They are just pretty incredible. And again, they're beautiful for. You guys, this is what a lot of our streams look like. A lot of our streams in central Wisconsin look like this. A lot of our trout streams. So we as a population, we went through this landscape early on and we ditched it. I told you about some of that. If there was a body of water that flowed that was wider than 2 feet, it was used. It was put to work for something, typically to float materials downstream. Every body of water was used to transport material. And through the transporting of this material, what ended up happening is our streams got wider and wider. If you could picture putting a bunch of logs down a river, we call it flat spotting. It will literally, most of our rivers were, say this wide, and they had banks on them, where the water was contained within the bank. And you start floating a bunch of stuff down, it pounds the banks down till you end up where you have a really wide and shallow river. And we walked away from a lot of these rivers back in the day, and we still have never came back. We just literally, we kind of used the heck out of our rivers for our, betterment, people settling of this beautiful state, and we never came back to them. We just literally flat spotted all these rivers, and a lot of them are big rivers, the Wolf River, the Peshtigo, the Menominee. We literally, it's pretty incredible, you guys, and that happened here. This is the Pine River, and the reason that we know that it happened, if any guys are not familiar with LiDAR, it's laser. It's a really cool form of mapping. I totally forgot what do you remember what the acronym stands for?
No.
Laser induced something. But it's
They find
pretty
dead bodies with them.
yeah, it's got a cool acronym to it. But what it does is it shoots lasers on the ground and goes back up to a reader array, and you're able to shoot right through all the tree canopy. If you guys saw in South America, they always knew that the Inca Empire was hundreds of thousands of people. They just didn't. We had no data actually proving that you could feed this many people, you could water this many people, until we had LiDAR. All of a sudden, we can see all the way through the jungle, and we saw all of these irrigation ditches. We saw everything that it took to feed tens of thousands of people. Really, it's actually hundreds of thousands of people. It's insane. If you guys get a chance, check out LiDAR. It's pretty cool. You can look at your own property on LiDAR nowadays just by going to a county. Most all counties in southern Wisconsin have been mapped with LiDAR, and I would recommend you guys look at your land as far as LiDAR goes. It will show where all of your drainage is at on your property, and you should. How many guys are familiar with permaculture? Yeah. Permaculture is using everything, aspect of sunlight. It's smartly using everything that you are given to the betterment of everything in this beautiful circle. Permaculture is fantastic. It's a great way of looking at everything, and it's what we need to integrate into all of the things we do. But even at a homeowner level, you can look at LiDAR and you can see you can see little furrows, drain furrows. You can see all sorts of cool stuff, and you can plant. You can plant to take advantage of that using LiDAR. But we know that this one was used to float a bunch of logs on. But everything you see along here, you guys, is buckthorn. It's glossy buckthorn. It's European buckthorn. This was grazed with cattle after they flat spotted it. They tried putting cattle in here. The cattle spread the buckthorn seeds all over the place, so we got a blanket of buckthorn. Very similar to what goes on here in Green Lake County. The fun thing about my job, though, like literally, this is the before and that's the after. This is the exact same spot. And all of our buckthorn, you see that we didn't go much past 15 feet along the shore of the river. The reason that we don't is because, again, we work for trout stamp. We work for trout stamp patrons, and we can't, we need to get 7 miles of work done each year for trout anglers to buy trout stamps. And we can't go further into the buckthorn jungle to do any further work. But this is all solid buckthorn back here, this understory. A woodlot should be like a society. The older trees are to protect the middle people, and the middle and the older protect the kids in the ground. That's what a woodlot is supposed to look like, actually. It's kind of incredible. But this is the problem with invasive species. We have all of these. There will be no baby trees. If you guys have buckthorn on your property, that doesn't mean that there never will be. Again, the buckthorn's telling you if you want baby trees, then you got to remove some buckthorn. You got to get some sunlight down here. But this right here, this brush, we call these brush mats, brush bundles. The bank was all the way over here. What's really fun about my job is that this right here is all grass now. You wouldn't even tell that this was a brush bundle or a brush mat.
Kayakers call them strainers.
yeah. And we have to, on our bodies of water, we have to take navigability into account too, because we don't want kayakers getting. This is a pretty small I wish more people kayak this river, actually. People aren't.
I do my part.
Yeah, yeah, good. People are kind of lost their sense of adventure, which is just drag a kayak to this place and, you know, try to stay alive for 8 hours. You know, more people should do that. But this will turn instantly into bank, and while it does so, it's grabbing. A lot of people don't think about the seeds that are underneath, feet of soil underneath our which is why it's pretty exciting. Well, it goes on in trout streams too. When you see sediment discharge and you see current moving through, you need to look at that and think seeds. That's what we think of when we're trying to capture sediment and silt within these mats. And I'm gonna show you some other photos. It works so wonderfully, you guys. It's pretty incredible that it's that simple to fix and improve a body of water. And again, if you could picture the surface area of this stream through this thing is like this. When we get done brush bundling, we'll brush bundle heavily on one side of it. Math is incredible to you guys, and this is math we should be following in school because it makes sense instead of all this stuff that kind of is hard to put into perspective. But this surface value right here will just change to the deep surface water over here as this forms. I don't know if that makes sense. I almost should include a cross profile diagram. But we'll gain depth instead of width, which we will gain cover and we'll gain cold water. And also, this right here is one of the finest. A lot of people don't know that either. Like when you guys know that the Army Corps of Engineers dredged a bunch of heavy metals and stuff from the Fox River up on Green Bay. Do you guys know how they remove those heavy metals from all the dredge spoils and stuff?
I think they're just scraping it.
Yep, and it's just sunlight. That's what they do. They put it in a thin layer and sunlight oxidizes it and removes it. A lot of people think that it goes someplace and gets processed chemically. No, it's as simple as this beautiful orange orb will sanitize and sterilize these heavy metals through oxidization. It's pretty incredible. And this is why, and so all this sediment's gonna build up on that brush bundle right there. New seed's gonna be contained within all of the branches and all the we call it interstitial spaces. All the soil will grow up there, and while it does that, it's getting hit with sunlight and it's oxidizing any kind of agricultural chemicals that have came down in our sediment. This is how you improve water quality through stream restoration, and it's pretty incredible. All of these little ponds that we have in all of our little communities, they are not helping this process. They are becoming depositories for all of these chemicals, all of this nasty stuff. They just settle out in these small towns. And do you drink the water around the Ripon Mill Pond if you live in Ripon? No, actually you don't, because it goes to a sewage treatment facility. But there could be some houses that are still not on city sewer that are there. Absolutely, they do, and they did for how many years? How many years did they drink through that? Do you guys know how good do they have a reverse osmosis system in Ripon at the sewage treatment plant? I have no idea. I'm just talking out loud. You guys check your water? Do you, like, once a year, once every 5 years, do you guys have your water quality tested? I would recommend that everybody does.
Yeah.
If you live in an egg-heavy zone, like if you lived here, you would want to check your water. If I lived here, I would check my water once every year. It's free. You can send it right to UWSP because of nitrates and phosphates. It's pretty incredible, guys, but I'm going to keep rolling here. This is another thing that we do a lot of. There's nothing wrong with this trout stream. This would never had anything float through it. This is a beautiful natural trout stream. You can see this is all this brush. You can actually see tag alders are growing out of the water. That's a totally normal habitat type in Wisconsin. It's totally normal. It is hard to fish through. People cannot, it's very hard to fish through. And all rivers are constantly changing. They're constantly It's called lateral movement. They're constantly moving within their floodplain. Where you're seeing a river now is just where it's at in your lifetime. And rivers really care not for human lifetime. And again, that's why looking at LiDAR is really cool, because you can see how rivers have migrated over 12,000 years in our glacial state. But this is fishability brushing. We jokingly call it fishability brushing. But it's fishability brushing. We do some of our projects. These are all cedar trees right here. These were actually planted. These are northern white cedars. And we thinned out some of the trees. We do plant trees along our trout streams for shade. And then we'll come back through and we'll thin these out, and we'll use the cedars right in the river. We'll turn those into habitat. But just another quick thing that I see, this is an ash tree right here. It's dead. And yeah, I'd have to do a separate presentation just on emerald ash borer. But this is very simple work. We do a couple of miles of this a year. It's very easy. We improve the river, we improve fishing, we take care of invasive species while we're there, or those ash trees, and we build habitat out of them. I mentioned before, you guys, that Johnstown moraine, that drainage that goes across a third of our state, and we're on obviously the Lake Michigan side. This is what a lot of our headwaters, again, if you went to the top of the Johnstown moraine, this is what it looks like. You can kind of see it's rolling hills. And you guys actually have it here too, in Powell Springs, Dakin Creek. A lot of them are kind of the same thing, where we have hills. We have these rolling hills, and then they end at Lake Wisconsin. And just about a quarter mile up from this area here is an upwelling spring, very similar to Powell. But if a river is this long, it doesn't matter if this is 7 miles long, 20 miles long, 50 miles long. If this is the entire length of a river, all of the spawning that trout do are in the upper third of the river. So, and why is that important? Well, if we take care of this upper third, we don't need to stock fish. And we work for the citizens of the state of Wisconsin that buy trout stamps. We want these, we have our own hatcheries, we just have to take care of them to have them producing our fish for us. Otherwise, we're left with, all we can do is stock fish. And this is a classic example. This is what we call these recruitment projects. The reason that this is in the heart of the upper third on this river. And if we did nothing, this is pretty natural actually. This happens all the time on rivers. With the exception of a lot of these are dead ash trees. A lot of this are dead ash trees, and you can see the branches sticking out. These are white pines right here. Yeah, this is kind of brutal. This is another 2-hour long conversation. But as our ash trees are dying in our stream corridors, they're falling into our rivers, and that's bad. But they're also creating big openings for wind. That's what happened here. We had a big ash die off. It left a huge hole in the canopy, and now we're more susceptible to wind damage events because all the ash trees that slowed the wind down are now gone. So it forms really, it can really shut our rivers down. It kind of is what it is. This is what it looks like after. And we're able to do this, and it's hard work because this is chainsawing and wearing waders and wearing all of this gear. It's hard work, but this I think we did just under a mile of this. A mile is 5,280 feet. I think we did like 5,100 feet of storm damage removal. And all we're doing when we're doing this work is removing the tips. We just want the water to flow. We want the water to flow through here. When you have all these trees and stuff, you're backing up water, but you're also backing up sediment. And what that sediment does is it does not allow fish to procreate. If we have a lot of sediment that is just laid up in a river, this right here is a trout red. This is a nest from a trout. And you can kind of see we leave all of this material. This is our width that we want to leave. When we're cutting all the tips of those trees out. We're just looking for, we call it a transport channel. We want a transport channel to form, and that way it's moving sediment. If we had moving sediment, then we will have trout reds, which is what this is. You guys know that we're working with a GLA to do red surveys on Dakin Creek. Are you guys aware of that? Right down the road. What we're doing is we're looking for these reds, and this has been heavily studied too. You can actually take and measure a length. You can measure the length and the width of a red, and you can figure out how many fish will be entered into a system by just counting reds and doing length width studies on reds. And you can look at that and go, if we do Dakin Creek, and this is the first time in 80 years, you guys, and this is year number 3. We have naturally reproducing brook trout in Dakin Creek. We have had for the past 3 years, and that's incredible, you guys. We went through almost 80 years of having no brook trout in Dakin Creek, and now we have them back. And again, whether or not they stay there is going to be up to all of us collectively. Otherwise, they're just going to go bye-bye. But that's what we do. Very easy to do. We got all that done in a week's time with 3 people. It costed us, $600-700 to create tens of thousands of fish for the angling public. It's pretty damn cool. The reason it's super cool too is we will go through an electro fish and judge our recruitment, and we'll kind of use our rough estimation of population based on the red count. We'll use that combined with what we see on electrofish survey, and the two have always been pretty dang similar. This is a brook trout on the top, this is a rainbow trout, and this is a brown trout. This is our native fish. These are both introduced. Rainbows are at least native to North America. Brown trout are native to Europe. But all of these exist. Some of our streams will have reproducing rainbows. There's only 4 streams in the state of Wisconsin that have reproducing rainbows. And we have 3 of them in central Wisconsin, or 2 of them kind of come and go. But 2 of them are very, very steady producers of rainbows. But these are all young of the year. We call them YOI, young of the year, and these were all born in that area. If we wouldn't have done the work that we did, we wouldn't have seen any of these guys. We created these fish with really just kind of hard work. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these, but these are Wisconsin bait covers. They were invented in my shop in Wild Rose in 1955, 56. My former predecessor actually, and I loved back in the day, they hired people that were talented or passionate about giving things, and my old predecessor actually he was a trout fishing maniac. The guy loved to trout fish. He was a fly fishing machine, but his background was geology. He was a geology major at Madison. Him knowing the geology of our area, this happens actually all the time. Where a tree piece, if you picture a big tree, a big white pine with all of these, any other than locust trees, or any white pines have a lot of horizontal branching, and when they fall into a river, all of these branches will sit there, and they will literally be there for hundreds of years as the tree slowly sinks down. These branches will hit hard pan, which is down 3 to 4 feet depending on where you're at. We have like a lens of super hard ground. They will hit that, and they will hold the tree up off of the bottom, and then fish will go underneath this tree. It turns into a home for fish, basically. Well, this guy, Bob Heading, his name is, he saw that, and he's a trout fisherman, and he came up with these, where you jet a piling down, you do sets of 2, right down to the bottom, and you'll hit hard pan, typically 3 to 4 feet down, and then you put a stringer on it, you put a deck on it, you fill it, you cover it with rock, and this is a Wisconsin bait cover. They were designed here, implemented here. They're all over the world now. They're in Patagonia. They're out west, Idaho, Montana. It's a fantastic tool in a toolbox full of many different tools. But I wanted to point it out because we don't use them as much as we used to. That's another separate presentation, but we still install them. This is a lunker structure which they use in the dripless area a lot to improve trout habitat. And then it's based on the Wisconsin bank cover, but if you see, this has got boards on the bottom, and it doesn't go all the way down to the hard pan. It just you set them in bends and you place rocks on them, and that allows fish to go up underneath here to hide. All things in nature, just like us, are food, shelter, and clothing. You have to be able to understand and figure out what something's food, shelter, and clothing is, and this is their clothing and their shelter for trout. A bank cover, an overhead cover of any sort. This is actually this is the West Branch, but it kind of the same thing. A lot of material has been floated down the West Branch for years. Historically, we're looking at a channel about this wide, but again, and that's what we're trying to get to. This was an area that they staged logs at. We could see all the old stage marks in the ground. This is all wetland back here, and this is huge. This was a huge wide spot. This averaged around 10 to 11 inches all the way through here. This is the bank cover. You can see the pilings driven down into the stream bottom, and then our stringer is on top, and then we put a deck on top of this. And this is what a bank cover looks like 2 years after it's installed. That's the exact same place, just with a bank cover installed. And we went from on average 11 inches of water to 3.5 feet of water, and going all the way through here. There's all sorts of other cool stuff coming. There's watercress forming up here. This is all swamp bittens, which are beautiful. Beggar ticks, they'll stick to you, but when they're in full bloom, they're magnificent. They're yellow flowers, really pretty. This right here is a classic. We got a tube coming out from a wetland over here. This goes on all over the place, you guys, and we need to get better at not doing this anymore. Everybody just thinks that, well, you can see the river's this wide, so we'll use a 12-inch culvert. They don't really, this is called connectivity. Nobody has been working as hard as they probably should to restore connectivity to wetlands. We have a lot of these culverts that are sitting here way the heck up in the air for a wetland that's on this side of the road. The reason this is all cavitated around it is because it ephemerally drains severely through the wetland over here. So it comes out of this tube and just forms a huge discharge area. One area where bank covers are really handy. Somebody had asked earlier about working with Trout Unlimited members, and again, we do a lot of work with Trout Unlimited members, like physical work. These guys are helping us build a bank cover in this photograph. Again, there's that same spot, and that's that spot after a culvert with a bank cover went on. We primarily use these in lieu of like riprap or kind of heavy-handed material, because again, there's a big deck going out all over. It's probably got a 3-foot deck, and then it's all rocked. But that will prevent this from ever discharging soil, ever eroding this area again. It worked out really well. You'll see all this brush right here. I gotta take actually updated photos on this. This is all green grass right now. This is a black willow tree that was planted for conservation. We don't recommend planting black willow trees anymore. This is something that they did in the 60s, 70s, and shoot, actually all the way into the 80s. They planted black willow trees, but we're using that for, again, like a sod mat or a brush bundle to capture soil, and it works beautifully. I'm just going to roll through these. These are, again, Wisconsin bank covers. That white roll, the kind of white material that you're seeing there, that is called Curlex. It is actually cottonwood fibers. They've been doing it with locust trees too now, where they put them in a chipping unit, and they turn them into really long fibers. And the reason this is Curlex net free. It's in you can get it in 8 or 12 foot lengths, and then it's got cellulose strings running through it that kind of sandwich all this stuff together. This works beautifully as an erosion control blanket, and it seeds can grow up through it, and it doesn't bring invasive species with it when they come up. And that's what it looks like 2 years after install. Again, I'll go back to that. That's what it looks like. A lot of these you're not even gonna know that they exist. Like, you wouldn't even know that there was a bank cover there. And that's kind of our hope, is that we don't want people knowing. But you guys, it's super, if you guys look at how, like, this just looks super healthy. And if your eyes are, if you're looking at something you're like, wow, that looks super healthy, super plush, super fertile, there's probably a reason why your internal voice is telling you that. That's because it is. That's what's fun about my job, is this was marginal stream before we did this work. It went from being a marginal fishery to a fantastic fishery, a super healthy ecosystem, and a really cool property. We use a lot of wood, you guys. I'm going to get going into oak wilt here in just a second, but we use a lot of wood in our project. We do way more woodwork on our projects than we do putting bank covers, because they're way cheaper. We can get you know, almost we can get probably 3/4 of a mile of that fishability brushing I showed you guys earlier. We can get that much work done compared to one bank cover. One of these bank covers, but we'll get a lot longer longevity out of this bank cover than we would doing that kind of fishability brushing. Everything's a balance, but that's before and after. This is what we do a lot of. This is called a boom cover. This is something that I devised years ago, and I'm getting it published. And BOOM stands for Biodegradable Overhead Organism Matrix. And the reason that we're doing these is because we have a pile of oak wilt and we have a pile of emerald ash borer killed ash trees that we have got to come up with plans. Like I showed you in that one video where all of that material is laying down across the river. And again, then it's more susceptible to storm damage. If we don't do anything, we will not even be able to walk on these properties. That's how bad our emerald ash borer infestation is. So what we do with all of these down trees, you can see this kind of tree right here. There's a couple of them. We'll drive logs into the bank, and then we'll build a matrix of typically our big wood on the bottom, medium over the top of our big wood, and all the tiny stuff on top of that. So we'll like literally take whole trees, you know, 3, 4, 5 trees, and we'll create like a boom cover across the bend like this. And these things are phenomenal, you guys. We love these things. They work super well. There you can see where we got kind of what I described. We have the super big stuff on the bottom, mid stuff on the top of that, and then all the fine branches from the top of the tree. There's like 4 whole trees, ash trees, on this one bend of this river. It works incredibly well. And then we'll take that Curl-X net free. You can see it comes in a roll like this. We'll roll it over the top of here, and you won't even see this big matrix of woody material. This is 1 year actually after we got this done. All of this organic material that you're seeing here is kind of like I described on brush bundles. That is the organic material that flows through a river system that we are trying to grab because there's seeds in it. But the first year of installation, we had all of these sedges show up right here, and that was because we got this done. Actually, I guess it would be almost 2 years. This one was because we got this done in the fall, and when we came back early summer the next year, we already had sedges coming in. We did not plant these. These just came in with seeds that were in the soil the year that we did this. And if you looked at this now, it's all green, growing, and beautiful. You wouldn't know there's a bank cover underneath it. How many of you guys are familiar with Aldo Leopold? I'm a huge fan of it, of Aldo. If you're not familiar with it, I'd recommend reading San County Almanac. The guy's phenomenal. I'm not going to read these. I use these as conversation pieces if anybody has any questions. You guys have any questions so far? But Aldo is an incredible guy. Now I'm gonna get into Oak Wilt in Wisconsin. So you guys, Oak Wilt, it is 10 years ago, the data would have suggested to me that it might even be natural, it might even be native to this area. We had no data showing, actually it was longer than 10 years, probably 15 years ago, when it first started showing up around here at a pretty bad level. I just assumed that it was, because there's quite a few